May 26, 2026. Anthropic became the most valuable private AI company on Earth, not because of a benchmark score, because of an invoice. That number edges out OpenAI by $48 billion. You probably know OpenAI, you use its products every day. The company that just passed it built something you have likely never opened directly. Developers spent 18 months watching benchmark leaderboards, MMLU scores, human eval pass rates. The actual race was running in procurement departments you never once searched for on YouTube. The scoreboard shifted, you missed it. The villain here is not OpenAI. It is the framework you use to evaluate AI vendors. Benchmark position, raw model intelligence. None of those metrics predicted which company would be worth $900 billion in May 2026. The number that does is coming in Scene 3, and it will reframe your vendor shortlist. This is what you watched. 8 frontier models, 4 years, racing up the MMLU leaderboard. GPT 5.5, Claude Opus 4.7, Gemini 3.5 Pro, DeepSeek V4 Pro. The race looked like it was about intelligence. Keep that framing in mind. Claude Opus 4.7 scored 86.8 on MMLU at launch. GPT 5.5 matched it by May 2024. Your developer community spent 14 months arguing about fractions of a percentage point. The enterprise buyer was running a different kind of test entirely. KPMG did not run a benchmark before signing their alliance with Anthropic. They ran a workflow pilot. Tax workflows, legal review, compliance agents. If you manage a technical team evaluating AI platforms, that procurement logic will look familiar by the end of this episode. The evaluation criteria for a 276,000-person AI deployment, API stability, and uptime SLAs, audit logging, compliance with your existing security frameworks, the ability to embed in Azure without re-architecting your entire data pipeline. None of that appears on an MMLU leaderboard. 276,000. If you are evaluating enterprise AI vendors right now, this is the number your procurement conversation starts with. May 19th. KPMG signed a global strategic alliance with Anthropic. Not a pilot. Not the proof of concept your team runs to check a box before the quarter ends. A full deployment targeting every professional across 138 countries by September 2026. The architecture matters if you are building enterprise AI. Claude runs through Anthropic's Managed Agents API, deployed on Microsoft Azure, embedded in KPMG's Digital Gateway. Your existing Microsoft security stack does not need to change for this to work. What that unlocks for your compliance team is in the next shot. Think about how this plays out for a KPMG tax attorney in Frankfurt, managing a cross-border M&A compliance review, 14 regulatory frameworks, 6 jurisdictions, a client call in 48 hours. If you are the tech lead who has to tell that attorney whether the routing agent will be ready in time, you want weeks to mean minutes. Weeks to minutes. This is the insight that justifies this episode. The model that scores highest on a coding benchmark is not the model your legal team trusts with a client audit. Those two criteria select for different architectures, different reliability guarantees, different vendors entirely. KPMG is not alone. PwC standardized 30,000 professionals on Claude before KPMG's deal closed. When 2 of the Big 4 land on the same model within 6 months, you are not watching a competitive experiment anymore. You are watching infrastructure being poured. Anthropic's second quarter revenue, $10.9 billion. The quarter before, half that. First profitable quarter projected this year. The source is not individual developers on the API. It is contracts like the one you just saw. If you were OpenAI watching this number, what would you do next? The valuation trajectory is not a hockey stick. It is a vertical line. March 2025 to $61 billion. September 2025 to $183 billion. February 2026 to $380 billion. May 2026 to 900 billion. If your mental model of Anthropic is still a safety-focused research lab, you are 3 funding rounds behind. The $30 billion round is not for headcount. Broadcom and Google are building custom AI silicon specifically for Anthropic's next training run. You are deploying the current Claude on Azure. They are building the version after next. That capital goes into compute. Custom silicon. The next training run. Your timeline for when frontier AI changes your architecture decisions just got compressed by 18 months. Not because of a product announcement. Because of a capital allocation decision. 3 days before Anthropic closed its round, OpenAI filed a confidential S-1 with the SEC, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. September 2026 listing target. Valuation range. $852 billion to $1 trillion. OpenAI's numbers are real. $2 billion per month in revenue, $25 billion annualized, 50 million consumer subscribers, 9 million business users. Put those in your next competitive analysis, they are not a weakening company. OpenAI built a consumer product, 50 million subscribers paying monthly. That strategy creates enormous top-line revenue and also creates the need for public capital to sustain it. Enterprise contracts do not work that way. Your procurement team does not churn. The incumbent blinked. The quarterly revenue reversal is what you should put in front of your engineering leadership before your next vendor conversation. Anthropic at $10.9 billion. OpenAI at roughly $6 billion. 6 months ago, that comparison was inverted. So what changed? The answer is not a better model, it is a different contract structure. On May 19th, the most trusted name in AI education posted a personal update on X. Andrej Karpathy, co-founder of OpenAI, former head of Tesla AI, the person who taught more developers how language models work than any living researcher. He wrote, "I think the next few years at the frontier of LLMs will be especially formative. I am very excited to get back to R&D. If you have followed Karpathy since the Neural Network's Zero to Hero series, you know he does not move unless he believes the work is genuinely unfinished. Get back to R&D. 4 words. Karpathy shut down his own education startup to write them. His specific mandate inside Anthropic, rebuild the pre-training research team and use Claude to accelerate the training of the next Claude. If you follow scaling law debates, you know why that mandate is unusual. The inference-time compute narrative said pre-training was finished. GPT 5.4 Mini. Chain of thought scaling. Reason at inference rather than train bigger. Karpathy walked into Anthropic's pre-training lab and bet the opposite. We do not know who is right. That is the open question at the frontier right now. Your next model choice lives inside that answer. What you should extract from Karpathy's move is not which camp is right. It is that Anthropic is betting on a second scaling era while simultaneously closing the largest enterprise contracts in the industry. Your infrastructure decisions live inside both of those timelines. Here is the take. The benchmark war mattered for 18 months. Enterprise reliability won the revenue. If you are still evaluating AI vendors by leaderboard position, your procurement framework is stale. The gap between what scores well and what deploys reliably is wider than any published report admits. Boring wins. Before the end of this quarter, your team will make an AI vendor decision that is hard to reverse. The numbers are on the table. $900 billion to $852 billion. Revenue doubled. First profitable quarter. Karpathy rebuilding pre-training. The enterprise already voted. That $48 billion gap has a clean explanation. 276,000 KPMG employees showed up to work using Claude on May 19th. Not a benchmark score, an invoice. If your team is still selecting AI vendors based on benchmark leaderboards, you are 18 months behind where your enterprise competitors already are. KPMG did not run an MMLU test, they ran a workflow pilot. Tell me in the comments which vendor your team standardized on and whether the benchmark was part of the decision.